When fate granted me a second chance at life, I didn't waste it. I buried my past and focused solely on one goal, acing the college entrance exam. This time, I didn't let my heart wander back to Ethan Hayes, the boy I once thought was my whole world. In my previous life, I had rushed into a burning research lab to save him. He was desperately trying to retrieve some vital research files. I didn't think twice. I dragged him out, my body swallowed by the flames. The scars never healed, on my skin or my soul. Afterward, whispers about my sacrifice spread like wildfire. Out of guilt or pressure, I never knew which, Ethan married me. But he never truly saw me. Not as a partner. Not as someone he chose. One night, he came home drunk. Slurring words he probably didn't think I'd hear, he said, "If I knew I'd be chained to her forever, I would have rather died loving Janie." I stood there, frozen. It was like watching my heart drown in ice water. For years, I had loved a man who had left his heart in someone else's hands. He never let go of Janie, not even in our marriage. I found out he had been telling our children stories, not of our love, but of his bittersweet romance with her. Our kids grew up believing I was the villain who ruined a perfect love story. In their eyes, I was the one who stole their father's happiness. But now, with this new life, I'm not here to earn love. Chapter 1 in this new life. Everything felt different, sharper, clearer, heavier with purpose. Then, on a day that mirrored the tragedy of my past, I heard his voice, Ethan's voice, echo through the chaos. "If something goes wrong, you'll come for me, right?" he asked, just like he had before. But this time, I didn't flinch. "No, Ethan," I said, steady and cold. "Your life is your own to protect now. I'm not coming." He turned to look at me, eyes wide, as if I had just torn a page from a script he thought was already written. "You can't be serious," he said, disbelief dripping from every word. I held my ground. "You wanted me to throw myself into fire again? To risk everything, for you? Why would I do that?" He took a step toward the lab, the flames flickering dangerously close, but then stopped, stunned. "You actually said no," he muttered, more to himself than to me. "You actually refused." I nodded. "Yes. And I meant it." The crowd had gathered by then, their eyes bouncing between us, waiting for a hero. I looked him dead in the eye and said, loud enough for everyone to hear, "Tell me, Ethan Hayes, why should I, just one girl among so many, be the one to save you? What makes you so special? Shouldn't you be ashamed, asking someone else to risk everything for your mistake?" A stunned silence swept over the scene, then, laughter erupted. Not cruel laughter, but the kind that cracks tension like thunder. For the first time, Ethan stood alone, truly alone, watching as the girl who once burned for him walked away without looking back. In my past life, I didn't hesitate. The moment I heard Ethan's scream from inside that inferno, I ran straight into the blaze. No second thoughts. No fear. Just instinct. I tore off my own protective gear and wrapped it around him, shielding his body with mine. And in return, I burned. The flames carved themselves into my skin, melted away the girl I used to be. I emerged from that fire disfigured, unrecognizable, even to myself. But the real pain came later. Ethan never once looked at me with gratitude. Not even pity. Only disgust. He'd flinch when I entered a room. Mutter under his breath that I smelled like something rotting. He told me my face gave him nightmares. And the worst part? He said that if I hadn't saved him, he wouldn't have spared me a single glance. And I believed him. I swallowed every insult. Hid my pain behind silence. Told myself he was right, that maybe I didn't deserve love with a body like mine. Then one day, without warning, he proposed. I remember shaking, overwhelmed, thinking that maybe, just maybe, my sacrifice had meant something to him after all. But the truth unraveled like a cruel joke. The lab was reviewing his performance for a major promotion. Some colleagues had started whispering, questioning his integrity, suggesting he only survived that fire because of me. The marriage wasn't love. It was damage control. A PR move. A way to silence the rumors and protect his reputation. I thought it was the beginning of a fairy tale. It was the prologue to a slow death. After the wedding, he barely touched me. He couldn't even bear to share a room. Every word from his mouth was a blade. But I endured it all, until the day he went too far. He injected me with a virus. Said it was an experiment. Said it would help my scars. Instead, it made the wounds rot. I spent my final days alone, lying in a hospital bed, my body failing me piece by piece. And as the fever consumed me, so did the truth. Ethan had never loved me. He used me, burned me for his own survival, then discarded me like ashes in the wind. But in this life, I'm not here to save him. I'm here to burn him down. Chapter 2. The moment he realized I was gone. I looked at Ethan, his face twisted with rage, lips trembling with the kind of fury that only comes when control slips through your fingers. Calmly, I said, if you're that afraid of dying, don't walk into the fire. But if you do, don't look for me. I won't be there. His expression shattered into something darker, something colder. Len Joe, he snapped, venom lacing every word, don't flatter yourself. Even if I'm reduced to ash, I'd never want you to save me. He took a breath and then, like a final dagger, spat, and stopped telling people we were ever childhood friends. It's pathetic. You didn't even make it to college. You think someone like you deserves to be linked with me? I was accepted into the top research institute straight after graduation. You're nothing but a shadow from a past I've outgrown. I didn't flinch. I didn't argue. I simply nodded, my voice steady. Then we'll erase that chapter. Consider it unwritten. The fire behind him crackled louder, hungry and unforgiving. Ethan turned toward the lab, but this time, no blind bravery pushed him forward. He hovered at the edge, paralyzed. The heat surged, smoke coiling like serpents, licking at his pride. In our past life, he had rushed in recklessly, knowing, deep down, that I would always come after him. But now he knew I wouldn't. And that changed everything. Step after step, he tried to force himself inside, but fear pulled him back like a leash around his throat. He hesitated again and again, until finally, he gave up. When the fire was finally doused, only blackened ruins remained. The lab, his pride, his future, was gone. And for the first time in both our lives, Ethan Hayes had to face a world where I no longer existed to save him. Chapter 3. Choosing myself. I walked away without looking back, away from the fire, away from Ethan, away from the girl who once sacrificed herself for someone who never saw her. Back home, I pulled out my dusty high school textbooks, the same ones I hadn't dared to touch in years. The National College Entrance Exam had just been reinstated. Last time, I missed it by a single point. A single point. But that wasn't the real reason I gave up. The truth? After the accident, after the flames ravaged my skin and turned my body into something unrecognizable, I lost the courage to believe I was worth a second chance. But this time? This life? I would not let fear decide for me. I had 2 months. 2 months to rebuild, to fill in the cracks, to become someone I could be proud of. That very night, the silence of my determination was shattered by a thunderous bang on my front door. It was Ethan. Fuming. His face was tight with anger, his eyes bloodshot and wild. He didn't waste time. "You have any idea what you've cost me, Lauren?" he yelled, his fists clenched. "Because of you, the data in the lab is gone." Gone. Do you even know what that means? I just lost 10 years of my career because you wouldn't help. And suddenly, like puzzle pieces snapping into place, I saw it clearly. In my past life, I'd thrown myself into that burning lab for him. The fire hadn't even reached the critical areas yet. But Ethan, he had begged me to go back inside, to grab the research data. That data was more important to him than my life. And I'd been too blind to see it. Not this time. I met his fury with a cold smile. "I never stopped you, Ethan. If you wanted to go in, you should have gone in. But you didn't. Because you were scared. So don't come knocking on my door, blaming me for the choices you didn't have the courage to make." His face twisted in rage. His voice cracked. "You think I was scared? If you hadn't refused, if you hadn't stood there like a stranger, I would have gone in. I could have saved it all." I stepped closer, eyes steady, voice sharp. "I'm not your parent, Ethan. I'm not here to clean up after your recklessness or carry the weight of your regret. Grow up. You made your choices, now live with them." He fell silent. His mouth opened, then shut. No words came. For once, Ethan had nothing to say. And for the first time, I felt free. The other woman. Just as I was about to shut the door on Ethan and his delusions, a familiar voice chimed in. "Lauren." I turned. There she was, Janie Yu, stepping out from her perfectly maintained little house next door, her every movement drenched in fake sweetness. She walked straight to Ethan's side like she belonged there. Their eyes met. And in that gaze, I saw everything, shared secrets, unspoken words, and a thread of intimacy that made my stomach turn. "This is your fault," Janie said, her voice syrupy, her smile soft. "Ethan is the only college graduate on this street, a respected researcher. You're nothing. If you had helped him, it would have been your blessing." The way she said it, like my existence was some inconvenience to the universe, stirred every buried emotion in me. And in that moment, the puzzle clicked into place. They had always been involved. Even back then, in my past life, I saw his shadow creeping into her window at night. I told myself I was imagining things. I even asked him once. His answer? A cold, cruel laugh. "Len Jiao," he spat, "you look like something out of a horror movie. Do you really think I can sleep beside you and still dream?" The memory slammed into me with the force of a freight train. He hated my face. My body. My scars. The very marks I earned while saving his life. And still, he chose to marry me. Not for love. Not even for pity. But for his promotion. The man I once threw myself into a fire to save, turned out to be the one who lit the match. And Janie? She wasn't just the mistress of his heart. She was the dagger in my back. After one particularly brutal argument in our past life, where I finally accused him of sneaking into her house, he stormed out. The next morning, Janie made sure the entire neighborhood knew. She told everyone I drove Ethan out. That I was a bitter, disfigured wife who couldn't keep her husband. From that day on, the neighbors looked at me with a mixture of pity and revulsion, like I was the villain of a tragedy no one wanted to watch. But now I was no longer part of their script. I was writing my own story. Chapter 4: Breaking the Cycle. This time, I didn't retreat. I didn't flinch. I let out a sharp, humorless laugh. Then why didn't you jump into the fire to save him, Janie? You were there too. I saw you. Hiding behind the tool shed like a frightened kitten. Or maybe, not frightened. Maybe just calculating. That struck deep. Janie flinched like I'd slapped her. Luren Joe, she snapped, her voice rising, how dare you say that? You're twisted. You wanted Ethan to die in that fire, didn't you? And now you're trying to drag me down with you. I didn't answer. I didn't need to. But I saw the flicker in Ethan's eyes. Storm clouds gathering. He turned toward me, his voice cold and commanding. Enough, Luren. Tomorrow morning, come with me to the backwoods. The lab needs fresh wild boar feces. You do that, and I'll consider letting this go. I almost laughed. No, I did laugh. Because it was just like before. Every time Janie was involved, he twisted the narrative, shifted the blame, swept the truth under the rug. But when it came to me, I was the one expected to suffer, to bleed, to prove my worth. I remembered the last time. How I'd stumbled through the woods, half-healed burns stinging in the cold night air, collecting animal waste for his experiment like some stray dog. When I brought it back, filthy, shivering, skin cracked open, he wrinkled his nose in disgust. You smell like a damn toilet, he said. Then he smiled at Janie, handed her the sample, and gave her all the credit. That favor? It got her a recommendation to a top university. And after graduation, she walked into that lab like it was built for her. Side by side with Ethan. While I sat at home, a forgotten ghost. The memory burned through me like acid. My jaw clenched so tight, I bit the inside of my cheek until the coppery taste of blood hit my tongue. But my voice? Calm. Cold. Unapologetic. I'm not free tomorrow, I said. If you're too afraid to go alone, maybe ask Janie to tag along. She worships you, doesn't she? I'm sure she'd be thrilled to roll around in pig shit for you. Janie's face twisted in fury. She stepped forward like she wanted to slap me. Luren Joe. What's that supposed to mean? Ethan's just asking for help, and you're already making excuses? What kind of childhood friend are you? I met her gaze with a small, peaceful smile. I'm not his childhood friend anymore, I said softly. And with that, I turned and walked back inside. Back to my desk. Back to my books. Back to the future I was finally building for myself. But Ethan wasn't done. His eyes blazed with fury as he stormed forward and grabbed my arm, tight. His voice trembled, not from sorrow, but rage barely held back. You think saying we're not childhood sweethearts makes it true? You've been telling everyone that since we were kids. And now, when I ask for one small favor, you suddenly grow a spine? Where's your sense of decency, Lauren? I didn't flinch. My voice was light, but my face had gone cold. Ethan, did you forget? You're the one who said we weren't childhood sweethearts anymore. Remember that? You're the pride of this street, the genius in a lab coat. And me? I'm just the scarred girl from the countryside who couldn't even pass the college entrance exam. You said we weren't a match. You made that crystal clear. For a moment, just a flicker, I saw panic in his eyes. But it vanished the second I yanked my arm free. I turned without another word and walked inside. Back to my desk. Back to my textbooks. Back to me. Outside, I could hear her. That familiar syrupy voice wrapping itself around him like a vine. Ethan, it's okay. If Lauren won't help, I'll go with you. It's just wild boar manure, right? With me there, you'll get everything you need. I heard him exhale, deep, drawn out. The anger in his voice softened. You really are the best, Janie, he said, loud enough for me to hear. Not like someone who talks big, but has no real heart. I froze. Even knowing he said it to hurt me, it still cut deep. Because I had bled for him. I had burned for him. I had died once for him. And still, all it took was one sweet sentence from Janie. To erase every sacrifice I ever made. Chapter 5, Taking Back My Life. The next morning, before the first hint of sunrise touched the sky, I was already walking toward the Education Bureau, a worn-out backpack slung over my shoulder. In my past life, I'd stood in this exact spot, burned, broken, and defeated, asking how someone like me, not enrolled in school, could still take the college entrance exam. I'd learned then that I could apply through an equivalency certification. But my dream had burned to ash along with my body. This time, I didn't hesitate. I filled out the forms. Sat for the written exam. Passed. By evening, I held a slip in my hand, proof I was finally eligible to sit for the college entrance test. And for the first time in years, I felt free. Walking home, a quiet, unfamiliar joy bloomed in my chest. But just as I turned onto my street, I saw them, Ethan and Janie, stumbling out of the woods, scratched, filthy, and bloodied. Ethan's shirt was torn. Cuts lined his arms. Janie's hair was a mess. They looked like they'd fought a war with the wilderness. When Ethan caught sight of my smile, he froze. Misread it. Thought I was laughing at him. His face twisted with rage. What are you laughing at, Lauren Shao? If you had come with us, I wouldn't have gotten chased by a damn boar and rolled down a hill. I hadn't been laughing. But now, I really couldn't hold it in. I burst out laughing. That was the last straw. Ethan stormed up, grabbed my wrist, and threw me down with such force my breath escaped in one sharp gasp. Then he kicked me hard in the back and stepped right over me like I was nothing. Think you can mock me? He growled. You've got 3 days. Bring me that boar manure, or don't expect me to speak to you ever again. Pain shot through me like lightning. I couldn't move. Just lay there, curled up in the dirt, cold sweat beading across my forehead. And then Janie. She stepped right over me too, sneering as her shoe pressed down. You really do make a great doormat, she said sweetly. So soft. So pathetic. I almost got bitten out there, all thanks to you. So how about we see how it feels to be stepped on? She twisted her foot cruelly into my ribs. But I didn't scream. I flipped over and yanked her down into the dirt. Her shriek pierced the air. Ethan spun around. Without a word, without a second's thought, he raised his hand. And slapped me across the face. Who said you could touch her? He roared. My head snapped to the side. Blood filled my mouth. I looked up at him, calm. Distant. And said nothing. I didn't cry. I didn't beg. I didn't shout. I walked home in silence, one hand pressed to my ribs, packed a small bag, and left that house forever. That night, I rented a tiny room near the school and registered as an independent student. I never looked back. As for Ethan's 3-day deadline, it disappeared like smoke. Forgotten. Like him. Chapter 6, College Dreams and Cold Betrayal. The day of the college entrance exam arrived faster than I expected. The air was thick with nerves and possibility. And then, I saw her. Janie. She strutted into the same exam room as me, her chin high, eyes gleaming with smug confidence. She stopped beside my desk and leaned in, voice dripping with venom. Lauren Joe, don't even bother trying. That college spot? It's mine. Always has been. You're just a leftover from the countryside. I didn't flinch. Didn't look at her. Instead, I poured every ounce of energy into the exam in front of me. I let her words vanish into the background, white noise. All that mattered now was this, the test, my future, and proving to myself that I was more than what they saw. Weeks later, the results came in. I had passed. I was accepted. Holding that college acceptance letter in my hands felt like holding my life, finally back in my own control. At the post office, as I picked up the official notice, I ran into the education officer who had helped process my equivalency exam. He smiled faintly, but there was something odd in his eyes. Lauren, with scores like yours, why'd you withdraw from university? I froze. What did you say? You gave up your spot. Your fiancé came with your household registration booklet. Said you were getting married. We processed the withdrawal and gave your place to another student. My entire body went cold. No. No, no, no. Sir, I didn't withdraw. I never gave anyone permission. I never even got married. The officer blinked. But he had your paperwork. Household registration, identification, everything. And just like that, it all came together. Ethan. He had known my ID number. My past. My weaknesses. In my previous life, he had done the same thing, pulled me from school behind my back. I just hadn't known who to blame then. This time, he'd done it again. But with Janie waiting in the wings. All he had to do was stage a withdrawal. Get the right people to believe the story. Replace me with her. And quietly erase my future, again. Sir, I said quickly, gripping his arm. That was a forged version of my household booklet. My real documents are still at my house. Ethan has no legal authority over me. Please don't send out that withdrawal letter. The officer's face paled at the word. Forgery? That's serious. He hurried inside and flagged down the post office staff. The letter, my so-called withdrawal, hadn't been sent yet. They stopped it just in time. And then, someone called the police. For the first time, they would face the consequences. I stood there, heart pounding, watching the letter that could have destroyed everything get pulled off the stack and sealed away. My place at college, my future, was back in my hands. And this time, I wasn't letting anyone take it from me. He lifted his chin as if he'd just offered me a priceless gift, as if I should be grateful. I almost laughed aloud. Just moments ago, he was accusing me and defending Janie. Now he wanted a secret deal, after forging my documents and making decisions about my life behind my back. Was this really something to negotiate quietly? I met his gaze without a flicker of doubt. I earned my place fair and square, Ethan. You have no right to demand I hand it over. Suddenly, a voice boomed through the station, Ethan Green, is Ethan Green here? Please cooperate with our investigation. Two uniformed officers entered, eyes locking onto Ethan. His face paled, twisting into panic. He turned to me, disbelief written all over his features, as if he couldn't believe I had actually called the cops on him. Janie's smugness had vanished. She lowered her head, wishing she could melt into the floor. One officer stepped forward. "Mr. Green, we're with the local precinct. Please come with us." Ethan's body trembled. He straightened as much as he could and asked, "What law did I break that you're taking me in for?" I cut in with a cold laugh, eyes burning. "You impersonated my fiancé. Stole my household registration. Tried to hand my college spot to someone else. Do you really not know what you've done?" Ethan couldn't stand still any longer. He rushed at me, his face twisting into fake tenderness as he grabbed my hand. "Lauren," he whispered, "we already have that kind of relationship. Do we really have to blow this up over something so small? I was thinking about our future. If you give up the university spot, I'll get engaged to you immediately. Just drop the charges. I'll forgive everything." His tone shifted, soft and coaxing, then firm and commanding, like he was sure I'd dream of marrying him. Inside, I laughed coldly. In my past life, I loved him deeply. But he treated me like poison, like something to be erased. And now? Now he came with empty promises just to get me to give up everything I'd fought for. I had no intention of letting him win. Chapter 7, Rejecting Manipulation and Seeking Justice. I stayed silent, refusing to give Ethan the reaction he craved. Encouraged by his words, Janie rose and floated over to me, her voice dripping with saccharine sweetness. "Lauren, sweetie," she cooed, "you should just say yes already. Ethan's finally willing to get engaged to you. If you go to college, you'll never get another chance like this." As if that wasn't enough, she added with a lazy shrug. "As for the university spot, I suppose I could reluctantly take your place." How generous, wanting all the perks without the price, acting like Ethan was some prize I should jump at, like she was doing me a favor by stepping in. I gave a half smile, my eyes cold and lazy as I looked at the two of them. "Well, if Ethan's such a catch, Janie, I'd be more than happy to give him to you. But for now, you two should head straight to the station and explain why you tried to steal my college admission." Ethan's face darkened, fury bubbling to the surface. He had already sunk so low, offering me what he thought I'd kill for, and I still refused to bow. His voice snapped, sharp as a whip. "Lorenzo, is that what it'll take? You want me to cut all ties with you before you drop this case?" I raised my hand, shaking my head slowly, almost bored. "Nope. Even if you cut all ties, I'm still not withdrawing the report." He froze, disbelief and fear painting his face. His voice wavered. "What did you say? I've begged you this much, and you still won't let it go? Don't you remember, we grew up together?" That finally broke something inside me. Even now, he was trying to use old memories like a weapon, hoping to guilt me into forgetting the pain he caused. I stared at him with ice in my veins. "No, Ethan. You're nothing to me anymore. You did this. Now you have to deal with the consequences. Don't expect anyone else to clean up your mess." Without a glance back at his stunned face, I turned to the officers. "Officers, these two worked together to steal my college admission spot. They even took my household registration right from my home. I demand justice." The officer's attention shifted sharply toward Ethan and Janie. Suddenly, Janie collapsed to the floor, limp and defeated. Ethan barely stayed on his feet, eyes dazed, still clinging to hope that I'd fold. "You can't do this to me, Lauren," he pleaded, voice trembling. "I'm in the middle of an important promotion evaluation. You can't ruin my record now." I said nothing, watching coldly as they were led away. Now you're scared? A little too late for that. Chapter 8, Consequences and Relief. Not long after Ethan and Janie were taken into custody, the police uncovered the full truth. Under pressure, their stories quickly unraveled, leaving no doubt about their guilt. Later, the Education Bureau officer reached out to me with a detailed update. Janie's underhanded attempt to steal a university spot had sealed her fate. She was banned from taking the entrance exam and might even face prison time. Ethan, while avoiding jail, wasn't spared. As an accomplice, punishment caught up with him too. Most damaging of all, the case was reported to the Research Institute, completely destroying Ethan's chances for a promotion this year. Hearing the consequences they faced, I felt little joy, only a deep, quiet relief. Summoning the courage to ask, I said carefully, "Now that everything's settled, there won't be any more issues with my college admission, right?" The officer smiled gently. "Don't worry, Lauren. Everything's been taken care of. You can proceed with your admission. There won't be any more problems." At those words, the heavy weight pressing down on my chest finally lifted, and for the first time in a long while, I breathed freely. Preparing for a new chapter. I went home to pack, rolling up my bedding and securing it tightly with military green canvas straps. As I sorted through the last of my things, a sharp knock echoed at the door. I opened it to find Ethan standing there, utterly disheveled, his hair tousled by the wind, his jacket damp from the rain. When his eyes met mine, a breath of relief escaped him, as if he'd finally found solid ground. His gaze flicked past me, landing on the neatly packed luggage behind me. "Lauren," he said cautiously, "so you're really heading off to college now?" I said nothing. Ethan pressed his lips together, then looked at me with a flicker of something I could only interpret as regret. "College is tough. You'll be swamped with books, exams, research. But since you decided to go, I'll support you. From now on, just focus on school. I'll take care of your living expenses." I stared at him, stunned. Those were words I never imagined would come from him. A sarcastic smile crept onto my face. "No need," I said coolly. "This is my business. It has nothing to do with you. And by the way, I'm Lauren Joe, the person you hate the most. Not Janie. Don't get us confused. If there's nothing else, I'd like to get some rest." Without waiting for a response, I slammed the door shut. That night, I couldn't shake the feeling Ethan never truly left. A shadow lingered just outside my window for hours, watching. Chapter 9, Final Confrontation with Ethan. The next morning, as I stepped out with my bags to catch the old green train, there he was, standing stiffly, waiting. When he saw me, a weak, almost fragile smile spread across his pale face. "Lauren," he said softly, "let me take you to the station." I frowned, confusion and irritation mixing inside me. I'd made my stance clear, but now he seemed like a completely different person, clingy, desperate even. When he reached for my luggage, I yanked it back with both hands, glaring. "What do you want from me, Ethan?" I snapped. "I told you, we have nothing to do with each other anymore. Stop clinging to me." His face twisted with pain. He furrowed his brow, stammering, "It's not like that, Lauren. I just want to walk you there." I said nothing more. I climbed onto a borrowed old bicycle and began pedaling toward the train station. Ethan had no bike, so he ran after me the entire way. By the time we reached the station, he was panting, his face drained of color. But I didn't spare him a second glance. I locked the bike outside for my parents to pick up later, then headed for the platform, dragging my luggage behind me. Just as I was about to pass through the ticket gate, Ethan lunged forward, grabbing my hand. He forced the words out, desperation bleeding through his voice. "Len, is it really you? Have you come back too? Otherwise, you wouldn't be treating me like this." I froze. My heart skipped a beat, but only instinctively. I turned back, shooting him a sidelong glance. His face seemed calm on the surface, but his eyes swirled with stormy emotions. "I remembered everything after I left the station," he whispered. "Lauren, in our past life, we were married. You were the one who pulled me out of that fire." I smiled faintly, tapping a finger against my temple. "Ethan, is your brain broken? You never went into that fire. And even if you had, I wouldn't have saved you. Talking about past lives now? Why not throw in the next life while you're at it?" His eyes widened with panic as I pulled my hand free and stepped onto the train. The moment the train began to move, he broke free from the crowd and lunged after me, but security tackled him to the ground. Pinned down, he screamed, "Lauren, stop pretending. I know you came back." I didn't understand how Ethan suddenly remembered our past life, but I wasn't curious. Nor did I feel the slightest stir in my heart because of anything he did. In my previous life, he was the one who killed me. No matter the reason, I could never forgive someone who personally destroyed me. After 2 long days and nights on the train, I finally arrived in the city where my university was located. I'd heard countless stories about how tough college life could be, but standing in front of the campus gates, an unexpected wave of hope washed over me. For the first time, both in this life and the last, I was truly about to begin my college journey. I quickly met new classmates, made some friends, and started settling in. One afternoon, as I headed to the boiler room to fetch hot water for a shower, my roommate suddenly came running up to me. "Lauren, someone called for you," she said, her eyes wide. Puzzled, I followed her to the dorm's door manager's office to take the call. The moment I picked up and heard faint breathing on the other end, I knew immediately who it was. Ethan. I had to admit, he was resourceful. He tracked down my university and even found the landline number for my dorm. "Ethan, what do you want?" I asked flatly. Hearing me say his name so directly, he dropped the pretense. "Lauren, I'm in the capital right now. Can we meet? There's something I need to explain." He'd actually come all the way here. I frowned. "Sorry, my academic workload's heavy. I don't have time to see you." "You don't have to come out," he rushed to add. "I'll come in to find you, okay?" Before I could fully reject him, he interrupted again. "The lab I'm with is partnering with your university. I came with the team." "That's not necessary," I said coldly. "I have things to do. Goodbye." I ended the call without another word. Less than 2 seconds later, the phone rang again. I glanced at the number and unplugged the receiver. The sudden silence hung heavy in the room. My roommate looked at me curiously. It was rare for anyone to see me act so cold. "Was that someone you know?" she asked softly. "Just an annoying stranger I'd rather forget," I replied, my voice quiet but firm. Chapter 10: Unexpected Reunion at the Academic Exchange. Despite my best efforts to avoid Ethan, fate had other plans. Thanks to my excellent grades, my professor selected me to attend an academic exchange meeting, an event that, as it turned out, was part of the very collaboration Ethan had mentioned. In the medium-sized conference room, Ethan spotted me the moment he walked in. His eyes lit up as if he had finally found something he'd been searching for all along. Throughout the entire session, he never took his gaze off me. It felt as though nothing else in the room existed except me. After the meeting, Ethan's obvious attention hadn't gone unnoticed. My professor smiled knowingly and asked, Dr. Green, I noticed you kept watching our Lauren. Is there something on your mind? Ethan's eyes shimmered briefly, and his voice caught with emotion. Actually, I haven't seen Lauren in a long time. We grew up together, childhood friends. Before he could say more, I cut in coolly, Dr. Green and I used to live on the same street, that's all. Just neighbors who knew each other a bit better than usual. My professor nodded thoughtfully, while the light in Ethan's eyes dimmed instantly, replaced by a hollow shadow. That evening, at the delegation dinner, I reluctantly attended. Ethan tried to sit next to me, but I blocked the seat firmly with my bag. Sensing the tension, my professor glanced between us and asked quietly, What's going on here? I answered evenly, Dr. Green is in love with a neighbor back home. I'd rather not get caught up in gossip, so I keep my distance. My professor gave a knowing nod and arranged for Ethan to sit elsewhere, leaving him to stare blankly, looking lost and hollow. Chapter 11, Ethan's Final Plea and Rejection. I barely touched my food that evening and slipped away early, muttering a weak excuse. But I hadn't expected Ethan to follow me out. Len, do we really have to be like this? He asked, his voice low as he caught up to me. We're the only two people in this world who truly know each other. I stopped and glanced around the crowded restaurant, not wanting to cause a scene. Dr. Green, I said flatly, I don't know what you're talking about. Every word I said earlier was sincere. If anything sounded disrespectful, I hope you won't take it to heart. I paused, then forced a small smile. If anyone knows you best, it should be Janie. She's probably getting out of prison soon, right? You should focus on figuring out how to marry her. That last bit I'd picked up from some gossip I overheard near Janie's home. Back then, Ethan had done everything he could to avoid responsibility. He had agreed to marry Janie only so she'd take the fall for stealing my college spot. That's why his punishment ended up so light. Ethan glanced at me, guilt flickering across his eyes, but didn't dare respond. Having lived with me for so many years in our past life, he knew me too well. He could see, with brutal clarity, that I was completely resolute. His throat tightened, and in a bitter tone he said, Len, it was all just a misunderstanding. You know the person I've always loved. His voice caught on that last phrase. He didn't dare say her name. In both this life and the last, he had never loved me. At most, what he felt now was resentment, bitterness over losing control. In our previous life, I had given him everything. Now, I avoided him at every turn, and that made him deeply unwilling to accept the truth. Dr. Green, I said coolly, a person shouldn't lie. Otherwise, karma will catch up to them. I said it casually, almost as if it were nothing. But not long after, Ethan sank into a deep, lonely depression. Chapter 12, Rising Above and Ethan's Downfall. After graduation, I was offered a position as the technical director at the Research Institute. It wasn't an easy decision, but after weighing the pros and cons, I accepted. It was the closest job to home, with excellent benefits and plenty of opportunities. Ironically, in this life, without the promotion he once received, Ethan ended up working under me. At the welcome banquet celebrating my appointment, Ethan looked like a man who had aged 10 years overnight. His head hung low, his back bent with defeat. He forced a bow and raised his glass to me. Congratulations, Lauren, he said quietly. I nodded and returned the gesture, just as I had with everyone else, fairly, without distinction, without emotion. That night, out of nowhere, Janie showed up. Years in prison had changed her completely. Her once pristine face was now lined with wrinkles, her skin pale and sallow, her posture stooped and fragile. The difference between us was stark, like light and shadow. She couldn't even meet my gaze. Gripping Ethan's collar with a desperate strength, she hissed, "Ethan, is it because Lauren's back? Is that why you're stalling on marrying me? Don't forget, I took the fall for you. If you don't keep your promise, I'll tell everyone what really happened. I'll ruin you." Ethan's hand shot up to cover her mouth, panic flashing in his eyes, but it was too late. Whispers spread like wildfire through the crowd. Colleagues pointed fingers, their murmurs growing louder. The institute's leadership, already displeased with Ethan's performance and attitude, wasted no time. He was fired the very next day. Chapter 13, Ethan and Janie's Decline. About a month later, on my way to work, I saw them again, Ethan and Janie. Ethan, stripped of his job at the institute, had gone through with the marriage but barely held on to any dignity. To survive, he was running a shabby street stall, struggling to make ends meet. Whenever I returned to my old neighborhood, Janie's screams often pierced the air. "You useless piece of trash! Still dreaming of miracles? You spent years at the institute and didn't save a single penny. And now, you're fired. Look at Lauren, she's way out of your league. She wouldn't even glance your way." Ethan's voice, angry and ashamed, would shout back, but he was no match for her fierce words. Once, I witnessed Ethan being thrown out of their small home, his face covered with scratch marks. When they saw me on the street that day, both froze in place. Janie's eye was swollen and bruised, a painful testament to their violent fights. She slammed the door behind her and hid, afraid I might use her suffering against her. Ethan just hung his head low and disappeared without a word. Later, I heard the rumors, the constant fighting, the abuse. The worst incident was when Ethan struck Janie with a wooden stick, breaking her leg. When I heard that, I just shook my head. Janie had once been the person Ethan claimed to love above all else. Now, he nearly destroyed her. But none of it had anything to do with me anymore. Embracing a new life. The days ahead stretched long, but I was finally ready. Ready to leave the past behind. Ready to embrace a new life, one built on my own strength and hope.